We continue our breaking news coverage. If you are just joining us, 2 St. Petersburg police officers are dead and a U.S. Marshal wounded. I'm Ginger Gadsden.
And I'm Keith Jones. We have live team coverage this noon. Melanie, Michael, and Grayson Comm live at the scene. Preston Rudy live at Bayfront Medical Center. And Mike Deason, he's live at the St. Petersburg Police Department.
We begin with Melanie and Grayson, who have been at the scene for the better part of this morning. Good afternoon.
Hey guys, good afternoon to you. Just a few moments ago, we did get a fresh update this afternoon from the St. Petersburg Police Department Public Information Officer Mike Petz, who told us that the suspect is in fact in the house at this hour. They have not had any communication with him in the past hour and a half or so. We do not know at this time if he is alive or dead, but we did get confirmation that at this noon he is inside that home, and they're trying to figure out what their next strategy is, if they go inside or how to handle it next. But Grayson Comm has been on scene all morning. Grayson, what can you tell us?
Well, we'll take it back to the beginning, how this all began. Shortly before 7:30 this morning, a group of St. Pete police officers and U.S. Marshals came to this house here in South St. Petersburg on 28th Avenue South to try to interview and then potentially make contact with and arrest a suspect that they've been looking for. As they went into the house, a woman, they say, told them that the suspect was there in the house and was making his way into the attic. The officers responded by trying to chase after them. In that process, police say 2 St. Pete police officers were shot and a U.S. Marshal was shot. Now, 1 St. Pete police officer and 1 U.S. Marshal were able to get themselves out and get rushed to the hospital, but 1 of the St. Pete police officers remained trapped inside the house with the suspect. From there, a standoff that lasted more than an hour. SWAT team forming outside. Then at 9:30, this.
For long is that going to happen?
Gunshots, chaos, as the tactical team went into the house. They used a massive armored vehicle provided by the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office to bash a hole into the wall of the house. They entered through that hole and pulled out their fallen officer. No one in the extraction team was hurt. They were able to get that officer out, rush him. Just minutes later, less than 10 minutes later, he had arrived at Bayfront Medical Center. It was not enough to save his life. We continue here with something of a standstill. Since that last interaction about 90 minutes ago, they have not been able to make contact with the suspect, they say is still inside this house. The woman who initially connected them with the man, she is with police right now. They have the area surrounded. They have this neighborhood in South St. Petersburg evacuated. But we are at a standstill in terms of dealing with this suspect. I'll bring Melanie Michael back in, and you've been talking to folks all through the neighborhood all day long about this.
Well, you can only imagine the shock of the neighbors in this area. The whole area is cornered off. I mean, you can't even get into some of these streets. The actual home where all this is taking place is really around the corner, guys. I mean, we're talking down the street and to the right. And the reason that they have us at this particular perimeter, of course, is for public safety, neighbor safety. And they certainly don't want anyone to alert the suspect as to the police activity, maybe their strategy as to going into the home. Now, of course, again, neighbors very concerned about their own safety. And just a few moments ago, we actually made our way through some of the different blocks in this area and began talking with neighbors. We actually spoke with the goddaughter of the alleged suspect at this point. Now, one of the names that was talked about today is Hydra Lacey. This is a report of who the suspect is. That is unconfirmed at this point. These are just reports that we're hearing. We're still waiting on confirmation from the St. Petersburg Police Department. But again, we spoke with the goddaughter of Hydra Lacey. She told us today that she was very, very concerned about her godmother and her godfather at this point. She said that there has been a tumultuous relationship between the two in the past. As you know, Hydra Lacey does have an extensive criminal background, and the goddaughter, of course, was concerned about, again, her safety, her godmother's safety, and the safety of the neighborhood. Now, one of the accusations today was that the godmother, Christine Lacey, who actually owns that home, had lured police officers inside. The goddaughter said that was not true. She spoke with her godmother this morning, and that was simply not the case. But again, these are just reports that we're hearing from neighbors. Again, the goddaughter in that area. area. We're just waiting to hear some more confirmation from the St. Petersburg Police Department as to the suspect's identification. And again, waiting to see what's going on inside that house, guys. The suspect is inside the home, we're told. But again, in the last hour and a half, no confirmation on speaking with that person. Relatives had supposedly done some negotiations with him earlier today and trying to get him out, but we know that is not the case. We heard the gunshots from Grayson's video, and we know that things have been very fluid here and, of course, very dangerous. But we'll stay on the scene. We're expecting an update, hopefully in the next hour or so. But again, Hydra Lacy, the alleged suspect at this point, a very extensive criminal history, and police are just trying to get inside that home. The tactical unit's trying to figure out what their next move is, and we're waiting to hear if, in fact, he is alive inside that home. We are live now for noon. Grayson Com and myself, and we'll see you a little bit later on in the newscast.
All right, and Melanie, I think people are wondering who the suspect is, not only because of what he's allegedly done, but because of the last name Lacy. Hydra Lacy, if indeed he is the suspect, is the older brother of professional boxer Jeff Lacy.
Exactly, and that's been the talk of the neighborhood, Ginger. You know, you talk to some of the neighbors in this area, and they knew automatically who this person was, and they knew the name. They knew the brother's name, of course, but they did know the name Hydra Lacy. We asked if he was actually staying in that home or living in that home. They said that he wasn't living there on a permanent basis. He was simply staying there on and off. Again, that relationship with Christine Lacy, the woman who the home is registered to, very tumultuous. They have had some domestic violence problems in the past between the two of them. This confirmed by their goddaughter. But at this point, you know, we're just waiting to see what happens with that suspect inside the home. And we'll let you know, of course, when that happens.
All right. Melanie Michael reporting live for us, and Grayson Com on scene this afternoon. Thank you, guys.
All right, let's go live from the air now. Let's look from the scene above, and actually this isn't. This is as one of the officers was, that was the last officer, about 9:30 this morning, who's being brought to the hospital. That officer, we believe, was one of the officers that was killed. That was just, we also had video of the gunshots that were actually happening. Here's the video that we were talking about. This is live, not live pictures, but pictures from earlier this morning when it was a very active scene, obviously still an active scene, an intense scene, and the number of officers that were on scene and still are is just incredible.
Our live breaking news team coverage continues this afternoon with Preston Rudy. He is live at Bayfront Medical Center, where we understand that those two officers were taken, and that's where those two officers died, and that U.S. Marshal remains there, and we are happy to report that he is alive.
Yeah, Ginger, we can tell you that the U.S. Marshal who was injured today was shot twice, according to officials, and they tell us that he is going to be okay. Now, St. Petersburg Mayor Bill Foster, he calls this a dark day for the city of St. Petersburg, as this community loses, as you mentioned, two officers. Both of those officers, as well as that U.S. Marshal, was brought here to Bayfront Medical Center. The second officer that died, he arrived here at around 9:30 this morning. He arrived by ambulance. There were actually 7 squads that escorted that ambulance as it arrived here to the trauma center at Bayfront Medical Center. But in the end, of course, it wasn't enough. That officer, by the way, that was the second officer that was trapped inside the home that had to be extricated and pulled out. But again, in the end, the police chief, Chief Harmon, telling us about an hour ago that it wasn't enough to save this officer, and we have 2 officers that are dead now here in the city of St. Petersburg, as well as a U.S. Marshal officer that has been injured as well.
Today, the family of the St. Petersburg Police Department lost 2 family members. Our city mourns and grieves, and we pray for the family members. We also pray for the officers. I witnessed out at the scene extreme bravery and heroism. They knew that there was one of their own inside, and they exhibited tremendous bravery as they went in.